To all you dear parents with children on the front lines, I want to share with you the following 3 brief anecdotes. The first is my oldest and favorite humorous anecdote about the atheist who goes on a trip of self-discovery and finds himself climbing Mount Everest when suddenly he's losing his footing. And he manages to grab hold of a branch with both hands, and he looks up to the heavens and he says, "Look, if there's anybody up there, can you please help?" And a voice comes booming back saying, "Do you believe?" And he's like, "Whoa, well, I didn't until now, but I guess now I do." "Then let go of the branch with your right hand." He says, "What, are you kidding me? If I let go of the branch with my right hand, I'm reducing my survival chances by 50%. Do you believe?" "Yes, I do." "Then let go of the branch with your right hand." Whereupon he proceeds to do so. "Now what?" "Do you believe?" "Well, clearly I do. I let go." "Well, now let go of the branch with your left hand." He says, "What? If I let go of the branch with my left hand, it's do you believe?" "Yes, I do." "Then let go of the branch with your left hand." The man ponders a few moments, looks up to the heavens and says, "Listen, is there anyone else up there I can talk to?" That's anecdote number 1. Anecdote number 2 takes us back probably the better part of 25 years ago, when my wife and myself and my children were in Israel, walking along the Tel Aviv beach, spending the afternoon there in the sand and in the sea. And at a certain point, as the hour was getting late, we decided to get together to go. And I suddenly realized my 5-year-old, youngest of my 3 boys, was missing. And my wife and I went into a frantic panic, looking everywhere for him, but couldn't find him. It was already after 5 o'clock, so the matzil, the lifeguard, was no longer on duty. And we're walking in different directions up and down the beach, and I am embarrassed or sad to say, at one point, instead of looking along the sand, I started to look towards the water, my heart literally in my mouth. And then I hear my wife screaming my name, and I turn around and she's calling me because there was a man walking with my 5-year-old son down the beach towards us. And we thanked him profusely, asked him what's going on. It apparently turns out that my 5-year-old son had the sense, as he got lost, to walk into a small little kiosk where a man was selling ice cream and said to him, "I'm lost." The man closed the kiosk, took my son by the hand, and proceeded to walk with him up and down the beach until he would be able to find and identify his parents. Thinking about how he literally gave up business at a peak time, closing his kiosk just to help my son find his parents, overwhelmed me. And I just looked at him, I gave him a hug, I said, "Thank you so much." And I'll never, ever forget his words when he said to me, "It's okay. I understand. I'm a parent. I'm a father too." Anecdote number 3. About 5 weeks ago, I had to have some significant esophageal surgery. And a couple of weeks later, I took a phone call from somebody, a Mrs. Hannah Canterman in Yerushalayim, who told me that she was doing a special event in the Great Synagogue in Jerusalem. Would I be willing to come out to speak? Now, the circumstances behind this talk is that she was putting together this opportunity that was presented itself during that short so-called cessation of firing of hostilities, and that the Great Synagogue had suddenly contacted her and said, "I know you often do an event at this time of year in our synagogue, and that it's been forbidden to have such large crowds, but in this quiet period of a few days, if you want to." And she figures to herself, "I have 3 days to organize this now. Normally I prepare it 6, 7, 8 weeks in advance." But she was determined to give it a go. And she contacted me asking if I would come to speak together with Rabbi Lau Sr., the former chief rabbi of Israel. And because I was only, 3 weeks, barely 3 weeks of recovering from this surgery, my every physical instinct was telling me I can't do it. My every emotional and spiritual instinct was telling me Israel needs you right now. You're being called in your own little way to attend to Israel, to help in whichever way you can, to give chizuk, encouragement to the people in Jerusalem, not just the residents of Jerusalem, but many of those who had been displaced from all the surrounding area, who had been moved to hotels and other places in Israel, in Jerusalem. And so I did what every good man ought to do, knowing, as every man comes to learn, that our wives are almost always right, or perhaps in my case, more always than almost. So I asked my wife, and she said to me, "It'll be good for them, and it'll be good for you. I explained my circumstances to Mrs. Canterman, and she said to me, if I arrange for a comfortable seat on the plane and a comfortable place in a hotel for you to stay, will you do it? And I just said, I most certainly will. And I can tell you that 3 days later and 500 plus people later, I went. It was the most uplifting experience to be able to, first of all, in the hotel that I was staying in the Laniado in Jerusalem, seeing so many of the families and choosing to engage with them that have been put up in the hotel from the south. And then, of course, on the night itself, having the opportunity to be a guest speaker, to provide words of encouragement for the better part of 45 minutes to many of these families, to so many who are grappling with just my tiny little bit, my tiny little contribution to the people of Israel, to the land of Israel. And I encountered soldiers walking to and fro when I went for a walk. Jerusalem itself is sadly quite quiet at the moment, but it gave me an opportunity again just to go over to them, to hug them, to thank them. And here's the point, bringing all three anecdotes together. Your children, they are heroes in every real sense of the word, not just semantics, but from a strictly Jewish Torah perspective, the fact that they're willing to put themselves on the line for the sake of the land of Israel and the people of Israel, they are true, genuine heroes in the eyes of Judaism, in the eyes of God. Number two, they're not alone. You're not alone. We're all with you in every which way that we can be. I know it's not the same. I know you're the ones who are going through this, but know that there are literally millions of Jewish hearts across the world that are eminently connected with those of yourselves and that of your children on those front lines. And number three, we all have someone up there that we can talk to, that we know is ultimately looking after us, looking after all of your children, watching over them. And I know sometimes it may not be so obvious with so much of the tragedy that we're encountering, but we put our faith in times like this into the one above, and please God, he will help all of your children to bring about a speedy end to all of the turmoil currently being endured and a real victory for the people of Israel, for the land of Israel, for all of your children, and indeed for Jews throughout the world. And to that, let us say, Amen.